But let's bring Geoff Mosher into the conversation, because obviously the Eagles yesterday, he had a lot of thoughts on this game, but he had to tend to the little one today, so unfortunately could not be with us. But we asked the question, Moshe, about whether or not it felt like a positive victory at the bye week, or did it have that more negative feel, still like still more questions need to be answered at the bye week kind of win?
Yeah, it's a question that I'm still kind of grappling with myself. First of all, by the way, we should put a poll question out there. Who throws more bombs, Jimmy Butler, Mitchell Trubisky, or Carson Wentz? I think Butler wins that one going away.
No, that's not even close.
As for the game, look, I think, Mike, I heard you talking about how every game is its own game, right? And whatever happens one week, like the blowout to Minnesota, doesn't mean it's going to happen the next week. We talk about that a lot, and I agree with you. But what is painfully obvious to me now, after half the season and them going into the bye week, is that this is essentially, without Deshaun Jackson, the same offense that the Eagles had last year. And that means to me that whenever they play a good defensive team, be it the Bears, be it Dallas, be it Minnesota, and in fact, sometimes when they don't play good teams like the Jets and the Lions, they go through some offensive ruts. And they've got, no matter how Doug wants to spin it, about J.J. Arcega-Whiteside or Mac Hollins really being 6th or 7th options in a progression, there's only 5 skill position players on the field, right? You've got 5 linemen, 1 quarterback, that's 6. The rest of the 5 are skill position players. And 1/5 of those on every single play is giving you 0 production for 2.5 months now. That's not a trend. That's not a small trend. That's not a little bit of a that's the reality of who they are and who they've been for the last 2 years. And so I guess now it depends on how are you going to judge the Eagles season. I see them now as a team that I think can be like last year, maybe, get into the playoffs and win a game, but they couldn't score points after the first quarter against the Saints. And I don't think they're going to be able to score points against good teams in the playoffs. This is not a Super Bowl team to me anymore. I just don't see it. I've got some ideas on things I think Doug can do with this offense that might help, but at the end of the day, I don't think they can be a prolific scoring team that we saw 2 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely, Geoff. I agree with you. I agree with what Mike is saying, how it's week to week, and at the end of the day, in the NFL, you have to figure out a way to win and move on. But there's trends and patterns here that it's hard for me, at least, to ignore. And you look at the offense and you see the success with the run game, and you look at the quarterback, and we're supposed to have and I'm not knocking Carson Wentz. I think he's had a good year. You can't really blame anything on him, but
I'm knocking Carson Wentz.
Yeah, but you have the guy. You have number 11 healthy under center. You have a couple of nice weapons and pieces in the backfield. I'm sick of the Deshaun Jackson excuse, and I don't know what Doug needs to do, but we praised him last week for getting creative in a little bit of his play calling and runs, and the two running backs in the backfield is the easy prime example, but it's just a long-winded this is just a long-winded explanation of I don't know how I feel moving forward, and I'm sick of the excuses, particularly Deshaun Jackson.
Well, I definitely understand feeling conflicted. I was really surprised today, guys. I put out a poll from the Inside the Birds Twitter account about basically asking if people had recalibrated their view of the Eagles. I think most people felt there was a Super Bowl team going into the year, and I wanted people to kind of weigh in on how they felt about it now. And we've got over 1,000 votes, and 70% of the people replied that they would just be happy with the Eagles making the playoffs. Only 30% said still Super Bowl or bust. That really surprises me. I feel like that's good on them for recognizing that the Eagles have had some major issues that they can't overcome. But I also think that that's kind of giving a free pass to a lot of people. One, the front office, I think, obviously, wide receiver development has been a problem for them in the draft. Mac Hollins and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside illustrate that. Number 2, the coaching. If you can't get these guys, if you're putting these guys on the field and getting 0 production out of them, what is going on from Wednesday to Saturday that you can't even get one single catch? And I will put some of this on Carson, Ryan. I think if you look at guys like Brady and Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson and the quarterbacks we define as elite in this league, they've also had injuries at those positions, and they figure out a way. I don't know who those two Packers receivers were from the last few weeks, Lazard and the other kid, the other guy with long hair, I couldn't remember, but I've never heard of them. I don't think they were drafted higher than Arcega-Whiteside, but routinely, guys like Russell Wilson threw a touchdown yesterday to a tight end I've never heard of. Lonergan, something like that. Hutchinson, I don't know.
But how much, Jeff?
Carson, I have not yet.
Yeah,
I'm just going to say I have not yet seen Carson do that with the guys who are not as productive.
Yeah, I agree. But how much of that is on Doug? Because I feel like with Doug, it's either one extreme or the other extreme with play calling. Is it fair to criticize Doug in that, or should we be more critical of Carson?
Well, that's why I did the whole 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Front office, coaches, and Carson. When I say coaches, Doug's part of that. I mean, you are. I don't know how you put a player on the field who plays 55% of the offense for 6 or 7 weeks and doesn't have a target or a catch. That to me is ludicrous. I've seen some bad players somehow get on an NFL field and make a play here and there before, and you don't see a single bit of it. I think at this point, Doug's best option, and far be it from me to be a coach or anything, is to be like Seattle, play exclusively 12 personnel, right? Be 2 tight ends, 2 wide receivers. Yes, that means Aguilar has to play the outside, but at least he can run clear out routes, and then just run, throw to tight ends, nickel and dime your way down the field, and see if you can win that way. I just don't think 11 personnel suits this team anymore. I don't think it makes sense to put 2 receivers on the field who are giving you either no production or less than what you want, less than adequate production.
Yeah, but okay. And I know a lot. Look, I'm not saying that we got to give some credit to the Bears have a pretty good defense, right? I mean, is it hard for us to fully? I agree with you. Their wide receiver production is not sufficient enough. But how much of that is that the Bears have a pretty good defense? Buffalo has a pretty good defense.
Right, but it's, again, Mike, I'm bringing this back to last year. I mean, it's not just about the Bears or the Bills, and I would say 2 years ago, the Bears had a very, very good defense. Or no, the Broncos, I'm sorry. They came in here with the number 1 ranked defense, and Carson destroyed it, 55 points.
So what is
this
so
is now
different,
a 2
Jeff,
year or year and a half.
But what is so different about, and I'm not challenging you, I'm just asking hypothetically, what is so different about the offense today from the one 2 years ago? Who are they missing? What are they missing? What is the key ingredient? Because people will say Foles. Well, Wentz was 11-2 and was going to be the MVP.
Right.
What is Torrey Smith is the missing guy? I mean, is that what we're supposed to believe? Everything else is the same.
Yeah, no, you make a good point, Mike. I mean, it's hard to believe that the difference between Torrey Smith and Mac Hollins can be 11-2 and 500. I think you have to factor in a lot of things. That year they did play a lot of teams, kind of like the Bears did last year, and now they're finding out what reality is like.
Well, they won the Super Bowl, though.
We talked about this. What's that?
They won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, I know. Listen, I know. They absolutely had 3 really good running backs that year. They were using interchangeably. This year they've got, Jordan Howard's doing fine. Miles Sanders, they're working him in. They don't really have a third guy, I think, that's going in there and giving them what Corey Clement gave them 2 years ago. So there's that. Nelson Aguilar was a completely different player 2 years ago. So, again, you want to talk about blame? I put a lot on him. He's lost it. He made 2 decent catches yesterday. I give him that. But for an 8 to 10 week span, he was fine against Atlanta. He had 8 catches against Atlanta. He had 8 catches against the Lions, and then he completely hit the tank. And then I put some of it on Carson. You guys want to throw the grow thing in there, maybe that's part of it too. I don't think it's just one discernible thing, but I do know now that the sample size is big enough for me to know that they're not going to snap their fingers and start being a 30-point team.
I got this text message in, guys. Get your reactions. Mike Mosher, Ryan Mosher's on the phone. He's out today for the full show. But definitely want to react to the win and what it means at the bye. Guys, every team's success starts and ends with the quarterback position. The Philadelphia Eagles quarterback is underperforming, and nobody will admit it. And I guess, Moshe, is that fair or foul?
Well, that's a little bit – I mean, that statement makes it sound like he's doing a terrible job, and I don't think that's fair at all. I don't think he's doing a terrible job.
Well,
I think
do we think he's playing on the same level that he did in 17?
I don't.
No, clearly not.
Yeah.
Not as 2 years ago. No, no.
It's I agree with the text message. So it's not as simple as every success starts and ends with the quarterback position, but I do believe that the quarterback can somewhat carry a team. I'm not going to say I'm Jimmy Butler now, but with that comment, but you look at Russell Wilson, you look at Aaron Rodgers, and those guys seem to, for whatever reason, get their team wins and still have the offense look really good despite what's going on around them. And with Carson this year, we have yet to see that. Now, it's not a knock, but it's also not like a credit.
I know. I think that's where the semantics come in, is that those guys are performing, that you mentioned, that I mentioned, Ryan, at an elite level. To not be playing at that level is not necessarily underperforming, unless you expect that Carson should be playing at that level. And to be honest with you, Russell Wilson's first 3 years, he played at the level I think Carson is now. He had that great defense, great running game. It's only really, year 4, 5, 6 for Russell, where he started to be like, whoa, this guy doesn't need the Legion of Boom. He is an elite of an elite. So I'm in the middle. I don't think he's underperforming, but I just don't think he's playing like an MVP.
Yeah, and when you look at the defense, if you don't mind me switching to the defense real quick, guys, because the Eagles have wins over Luke Falk, Trubisky, Keenum, Josh Allen. They have losses against Stafford,
Rodgers,
Matt Ryan, and Rodgers, yeah. But Stafford, Ryan, Dak, and Cousins. And that's from Kevin Kincaid I saw a few hours ago. He tweeted that out. But my point with that is, are we overlooking the defense yesterday? I mean, the secondary's back. They're going to continue to get better, hopefully. Fletcher Cox looks like he's coming into his old self. But how are we feeling about the defense?
I think you got to feel better, right?
I think that
you got to feel better, guys, about the fact that. Now, I don't know. How would you rank the Bears' offensive line? I mean, you got pressure yesterday. You got some pressure that made – look, Trubisky's not great, but you made him hurry. You made him – the feet were getting happy. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that you got some pressure on them.
Yeah, I think there is a very good reason to feel better about the defense, especially the secondary. And obviously you did get pressure yesterday. The Bears' offensive line has been bad. It wasn't great last year, but they played from the lead a lot. They ran the ball well. They used – Trubisky obviously had a better year last year, and they played a lot. I remember on Friday and Thursday, I think it was, we went over the teams the Bears played last year. They were as bad can be, and the Bears were an improved team, so they took advantage of that. But, none of those tackles you ever see in the Pro Bowl, and Kyle Long is – not been what he was a couple of years ago. He's had a lot of injuries. So it's not a great offensive line, but that's all right. The defense did what it was supposed to do. But I don't know if, when they play Dallas and when they play New England and they play, anybody else who can put some points on the board better than Chicago, if they're going to be able to be like that.
Now, you guys talk about at the latest Inside the Birds podcast, is this the best the Eagles can be? Is this win the ceiling of who they are?
Right. I mean, that's the question. See, my sentiment yesterday after the game was probably like what you're hearing now. To me, I felt like I had an epiphany, that I just realized that with Deshaun out, the offense is – and I agree with you, Mike, it's a very good Bears defense. I'm not saying they're going to score 20 to 22 points every single game from here on out, but I just feel like they remind me a lot of last year. Good enough to win games, good enough to get into the playoffs. I don't know that they're good enough to beat a team that has a top 10 offense and a really capable quarterback. A team like Dallas, a team like Green Bay, a team like San Francisco in the playoffs.
Yeah, and another thing is, too, I mean, all right, offensively, they're still missing that piece. And, again, does this all change? I know, like, some people say, like, right, I don't want to hear about Deshaun Jackson. But does this all change? It obviously changes for the better if he's out there. But are we beyond – counting on him?
Oh, man. I mean, look, I've been saying it on Inside the Birds and on the show for a while. Like, he didn't get it repaired surgically. And it's kind of weird how everything happened the other day, because it kind of happened how I said it might, is that he goes out there, runs one route or does a little, a quick hitch like he ran, and then he could feel it, and then it's back to square one. So I don't know if you can count on him. But If you can, that's good. But I'd really look at the market right now for some guys who can run, just to put someone out there to stretch the field a little bit.
Yeah, Doug mentioned that, I think, earlier today. Did he not, guys? And he said they're going to look into the market.
That they're going to try to I can find the exact wording of it in terms of where we had a guy texting earlier.
It's real. The fact that he said it's real, I mean, he kind of acknowledged that this is an issue. He said it's real.
Yeah, well, he said, how would you evaluate the way they've been playing so far? He said, I think overall they've been good, but I would say they haven't been great. Now, that's him basically saying, no, they're not living up to expectations without blasting them.
Exactly.
Right.
He said, the uncertainty around Deshaun Jackson and maybe the production at wide receiver and not being exactly where you would like it. Are you anticipating any moves this week at wide receiver? That's from Tim McManus, ESPN. Peters has said, at this point, it's something we'll take a look at. We have to take a look at it, obviously. It's real. We're sort of at the halfway point, a little over a game over the halfway point in our season, and we have time this week to make those decisions. So I guess the questions are, do they have in-house options that – does he say, you know what, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, it's time to take the training wheels off. It's 9 weeks. We're at the bye week. You're the guy.
Been waiting to see that. I mean, I don't know how you guys think, but the bottom to me, if you're putting him on the field and he's a guy that again doesn't separate with speed, then you kind of put him on the field in place of Alshon, which you really don't want to do right now, as bad as Alshon was yesterday. I mean,
why not?
He's still your best wide receiver. So, well, because then if you're in 3 receiver sets and you got Hollins and JJ out there,
you're not taking Jeffrey off the field.
Well, I'm not saying bench him, but
none of them were any good.
You can at least give Alshon 90% instead of whatever he's at now. It's not working right now. So I get where you guys say when I say why not. I understand the answer completely, and it's a valid one. But at this point, things aren't getting better in Philadelphia. Things are only getting worse, and Doug needs to do something different.
Yeah. All right, Moshe, give us a pick for the night, man. You're hot.
Oh, I am hot. I told you guys that Michigan was going to cover against Maryland. They did, so let's go for another one. Tonight, the Cowboys are going to cover. So put your money on them on Sugar House with unique features and generous rewards. PlaySugarHouse.com is New Jersey's premier casino, custom designed for you. PlaySugarHouse.com must be 21 over to play. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. That's right, the Cowboys, I think it's down to 6.5 from 7. They're at the Giants, but they are way better than the Giants, much more than a touchdown. So take the Cowboys tonight on Sugar House.
All right, Geoff Mosher, hopefully your daughter feels better and we'll be able to have you back tomorrow.